These are the new releases that I'm the most excited and thrilled to read this year. There's nothing that I like more than to look forward for new books. There's something beautiful in finding and wanting a book that sounds amazing and the premise is fascinating and see if then delivers. Although this year is not the year of Sanderson, there's still a lot of good books, and I shortlisted that to the ones that I'm the most excited about, and here are those for you. Let's start with Faebound. This is a story that it's for some reason really compelling me. Have I read The Final Strife? No. Have I read a lot of good feedback about it? Yes. This book seems really different. It leans more towards the romantasy side of things. It's a sapphic relationship, but the main thing here is that we will have this very rich lore about Fae, about the elves. It's supposed to be also deeply political and to have this tiny little bits of, sexiness, fun times, which usually by the beginning of the year, it's the moment when I'm finding myself wanting these types of stories the most. Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, it's a sequel that I am really anticipating because the first one, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, was such a surprise. It is a very cozy fantasy, but it almost read as a standalone. It was super fulfilling, and I'm expecting this one to deliver in that sense as well. And the main thing here is that we have our main character, Emily, and she is really ambitious. She really wants to do her job, and it's kind of like very focused, and it is hilarious to see her combined with this other character that follows her. And I'm not going to be spoiling a lot of stuff. Come on here, Ty. But just know it's very easy to read, and it's comfy, but it is also surprisingly dark at times, so definitely a blend of amazing adult fantasy story. Then let's quickly mention Crescent City 3. Now, I am so torn with this book, so on the fence, because in one hand, I'm hating everything that Sarah J. Maas is doing lately. I cannot stand the fact that she did a lot of different chapters for this book and that she's trying to get a lot of money. She's gatekeeping the content unless you buy those options. So that's not cool, and I'm not cool with that. The thing is that she is doing something with this book that it's... The thing is that book 2 ended in a way that made me really want to know what happens. Not because it's a classic cliffhanger, but because she's doing something that I won't spoil, but that a lot of fans of Sarah J. Maas will like. Even if this is not your series, there's a lot of potential there. She is pulling a Sanderson here, so I'm really thrilled to know what happens, but this is a book that I am so on the fence, and I just don't know what to do. Do you know what to do? No. Another release that I am very excited about, it's book 3 in The Empire of the Wolf. This is the conclusion, and I've loved book 1 and book 2, Tyranny of the Faith, no end. This is a story that I did not think it was going to be for me because it's dark and there's a lot of religious themes, but there are so many good things. There's this incredible elden magic system, which I love, and it's paired with this gloomy setting, these characters that they don't really know what they are doing. It felt realistic, and there's also this amazing blend of religion and politics and adventure and amazing magic. There's necromancy, there's this terrible elden magic that allows you to speak with the dead, and things go downhill in book 2 like you cannot imagine. And a lot of good friends have already read book 3 and they say that is amazing, so I'm really expecting this to be one of my favorite books of this year, and I am so excited to read it already. If you have not read this series, this is the perfect moment for you. The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. It's a book that I will not just read, I will devour it. As soon as it will be released, I'm going to be stopping everything and pick this one up. I am in love with the Founders Trilogy, and although I was not a big fan of City of Stars, this new story seems to have all the ingredients for me to be one of my favorites of all time as well, and definitely one of the 5 stars of this year. This author has really something. He's able to create characters that are really complex, really nuanced, but really funny. His humor really is in sync with what I like, and usually his magic system, it's great. And in this new world, we are having these different illnesses that are really contagious, and weird thing happens every now and then. And the story begins with this character that is suddenly dead, and a tree has exploded from his body. And that's the point in which we will get to know our main characters. One is a detective, and another, it's also kind of like a detective. These two characters will pair up. They will try to understand what is happening, because this is supposed to be something really unique that will endanger a lot of people. And the result will of course throw them into a lot of politics, a lot of running, and I'm hoping, and I just cannot wait to see where the author is taking us with this one. I really, really recommend, if you have not read already, the Founder Trilogy, because it's the heist at its core. It's a blend of fantasy and sci-fi, and I have only good words about this. And let's talk about The Empire of the Damned, which is the continuation of The Empire of the Vampire. I read this last year. I fell in love absolutely about it. It was a mess and it was genius, and I am hoping for book 2 to be one of my favorites also of all time. As you can see, I'm very excited about these books, and what I really liked about this story is that the characters are really, really savage. The surroundings are dark, are savage, and there's no doing things, or just not expecting things to end up good. You just expect a lot of dying, a lot of blood, and a lot of drama. The unique writing style that J. Christoph has here, it's definitely not for everybody, but I loved it. Eventually you have this perspective that it's telling a story, and then you follow past the future, and it is an amazing way to tell a story. Book 2, I guess, will change that a little bit, but I'm still thrilled to see what are the different pieces that the author is going to put together for us to be absolutely hooked. It is dark, it is wintry, and it is perfect. Changing gears completely, we have A Fate Ink and Blood, the new series from the same author of The Bridge Kingdom, which is at its core fantasy romance, but she has this ability of also writing very good fantasy, and she's one of my favorite fantasy romance authors, because although her romances are there, they're not only the main part of the story, and I love when the worlds have a rich fantasy element or a rich plot, and then you have a good romance as well, but the characters are well developed, they are nuanced, they are rich, and I got that in Bridge Kingdom. And in here, I love that it's more of this Norse mythology element, and I'm really loving the Vikings element. We will follow this girl that is supposed to have a special power of the Shield Maiden, and she is kind of like kissed by the god, and something will happen. She's supposed to be fighting with a warrior. They will probably fall in love, and the story will unfold from there. But really, what I'm really hoping is for this world to be rich with this Norse folklore, and for us to fall in love and to feel the frost and the Vikings. A book that has me very excited for a lot of different reasons. It's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I know I'm not the only one that is excited about a new release by this author, because, you know, Six of Crows, amazing, and I really believe she's going to be amazing at pulling this historical fiction, but it is also set in the golden age of Spain. I'm from Spain, and I'm thrilled to read something by one of my favorite authors that it's set on my city, Madrid, and we will follow this girl Lucia with this set. For us, it's with the sea, and she's serving in this house. One day we discover that she has these little powers, and the ruler of the house is like, now you're going to do something for us to bring up our status, because she can do these little miracles. And what happens, and what starts to be something that it's entertaining, it very quickly sparks the attention of the secretary of the king, also supposed to be very political, and I am really, really excited. I've never read a story that is set on my city, like in the golden age, and I am really excited to see that lore, to see the different streets that I walk through, and I want to see what's the extent to which this author is imagining Madrid, and what's the state in which, you know, we get to see it. Another story that I'm really excited, it's The Dead Cat Tales Assassin by P.D. Jelly Clark. I read a few months back A Master of Jean, and although it wasn't a favorite of all time, I really, really loved a lot of elements. It felt really, really fresh in this world, that it was a steampunk, but at the same time it was set in Egypt, and there was something while I was reading that it was incredibly easy and very addictive to read. The world building, it's phenomenal, and I know that this author is honing his craft. So with this new story that will have this society of dead assassins, it just, everything sounds really well. Having this guild of dead warriors sounds really down my alley, and I cannot wait to see where this story takes us. I hope this revolves around the death, the magic, and I'm always very compelled about that. I know I'm all sunshine and everything, but I love death magic. Also, the second book of my favorite book of last year, The Will of the Many, will be released this year, which is The Strength of the Few. The Will of the Many is set in this Roman Empire setting, where we have this military academic element, and and there's also a little bit of a sci-fi element blended to it. There's this incredible magic system that it's set in different layers. The power of the wand relies on the wand that it's in the layer below you. It's really similar to what you can have in Red Rising, so these different layers, and the one at the top is the most powerful one, and there's an infiltration in the system to figure out what is happening because something very weird is going on. This book was phenomenal. It got me down the rabbit hole, and I cannot wait to see what happens in book 2. I definitely will need to read this one again. I was so obsessed, so addicted. So if you have not picked this already, just wait until you have book 2, because once you finalize this, you're like, okay, I need book 2 now, and you are going to be able to have that. If you're liking this so far, well, you know what to do. A hidden gem that I hope you pick up, it's the Gail song trilogy by Shauna Lawless. And book 3, it's about to be released this year. This is an historical fiction with a very rich Irish component, and we will follow these different sides, and we will see how these 2 different clans are advancing, the politics around it, and we will follow the points of view of 2 adult women and how they play a different role in this land. Both of them are magical. They have different kinds of magic, and this will allow you to see the different clans that are magical. Now, book 1 was amazing, book 2 was outstanding, and I can only hope for book 3 to destroy me. This, no doubt, is going to be a 5 stars for me, because book 1, 5, 2, 5. I don't know how many stars you can give a series, but please read this one out. It's really interesting, it's really unique, and it is beautifully told. Please pick this one up. And we're almost ending this, and I am definitely leaving the best for the last. In one hand, we have Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the sequel from House in the Cerulean Sea, and my expectations are really high, and that I believe is going to be a challenge. But this book was phenomenal. It's kind of like a hack-made book. I cried happy tears reading it. And book 2, it's following the story of these characters that we see here, especially the backstory of one of them, and we will see what happens. But book 1, it's mainly throwing us to this world in which there's these kids that are magical, and we follow this adult man that is a caretaker, and he needs to ensure that all of these different children that are magical are taken care well. And he will go to this house in the Cerulean Sea where the most dangerous of all children are, and there are very cute little children. This second book will also have that element, but let me tell you, there's something about TJ Klune that it's his humor, his depth of characters. He really has something that it's really unique, that it's his trademark. And even if this story does not deliver in bringing you a new world, that it's completely fascinating and new, because you're continuing with the same story, there are so many good things to follow. And this sequel, it's really something that I'm really expecting to love. Now let's end the best for the last, and you can't forget that I'm going to do anything in December that it's not talking about this book. We have Wind and Truth, which is book 5 of Stormlight Archive by Brando Sando. Last year was the year of Sanderson, and I was hyped to read a book of him every quarter, and certainly I got a new favorite, which was Jumi and the Nightmare Painter. Tress was also amazing, but while reading them, I could not escape the feeling of this is all very cool, but I want to get back into the Stormlight Archive because this is my favorite series of all time. And there's something about this last book that absolutely destroys me. The first thing is that Stormlight is supposed to have 10 books divided in 2 arcs. The first arc will end with these books. So imagine a Sunderland, but multiplied, because this is not just the end of one of his massive books, but the end of an arc. So that already has me like itching really hard. But the second thing is that he said that between this arc and the beginning of the second arc, there's going to be around 10 years. So we're not going to have more Stormlight officially until 2033 at least, which is like a lot. I don't know how I'm going to be doing this, and all of these are just making me want to reread Stormlight from start. Let me know if you wouldn't like to do that with me. I want to savor this story before getting into the end of an arc and before saying goodbye for this story for 10 years. Does something. Also, I'm very curious why he changed the name. We started with Knights of Wind and Truth, and then that was changed to Wind and Truth. And it's like, what is happening? Are you not gonna do a lot of nights? What is happening? So I'm really excited. For those of you that don't know about Stormlight Archive, it's this epic fantasy series where you at its core have a war between two species. But the main thing about this book, about this series, is how Sanderson is able to craft characters that are really, really deep, that are really nuanced, that are very relatable. He depicts mental illnesses like no other, and you read and you feel for them. There's also this amazing magical system, this very rich landscape, politics, characters. There's a lot to unpack. This releases in December, and let me tell you, I know this is going to be my favorite book of the year for sure. I'm just hoping for it to not destroy me so much that I'm not coherent. I don't want to be crying all around you. Let me know down below which are the best books that you're planning to read this year. Let me link you here also other books that I'm 100% wanted to get my hands on this year, so that you can have a long list of your TBR. And thank you so much to my Patreons for supporting me, my passion, my hobby, and join us if you want to have reading sprints, a monthly book club, reading challenges. We are having a lot of fun